All right. Matt Hoover. What is
What's
up,
up,
my
man?
man? Show everybody that beautiful shirt you got there.
Look at this.
Golly, that's some nice apparel.
Paul only goes with the finest quality cottons. It's the only way to go, people.
Only the finest of quality for the Will Club.
Feels good. That's
Nice, man.
the only way to go. I agree.
What a blast we had this weekend, right?
Man, that was amazing. It was so much fun just because, everybody in the Whale Club is super cool to hang out with, whatnot. But just the strides that we made in both sides of the fence, meaning the real estate fence and the crypto world, jumping over to the other side, so to say. And it was just amazing, man. I mean, I saw it happen. I was telling Pete Cavanaugh afterwards, I'm like, you made a move, Pete, and it changed the game. Took a big step, and it was last 10 or 15 minutes of the meeting. It was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So valuable.
Yes. Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier in our whale call today, right? And just the biggest takeaway was that we probably are talking to crypto investors.
Correct.
The same. Well, we talk about using stories versus using stories to explain ideas to people because it's tied to hardwired, pre-wired things that they understand. You want to explain something to a 5-year-old, you don't describe the technical aspects of it.
Correct.
Right? You tell them it's like this, something that they may already be familiar with. Well, we found this out by going through the process of educating other real estate investors on crypto. What happens is when we start using terms like liquidity pools and decentralized exchanges and MetaMask, they're like, I don't know what you're saying.
They tune out 100%. 100%.
They tune out.
And I think one of the things, I had a guy tell me this one time, and this kind of stuck with me. He said, a story is a fact with emotion, right? And that's why a story is so effective, is because it involves the emotional aspect of a human. And when you start hearing stories of how some of these crypto guys jumped in and had massive success, and then on the other side of the fence, you have what we are as real estate investors doing the same things. It gets exciting when you get two worlds and you're able to take one step closer to getting those worlds together and helping each other. Man, that's some powerful stuff, man. Very powerful.
Yep. Very powerful. And we realized that we might be doing and violating the same thing that we do with, real estate investors, trying to teach them about crypto. We can't use these big words. We got to use stories. We were doing the same thing with the crypto. We call them the crypto cowboys, right? The guys who are sitting up front, and they've got all these, let's just say all this money. I don't know how many millions it is, but it's a lot of money that they've done well in crypto. So we just assume they have all this understanding of real estate, but we found out they don't know much about real estate.
You're exactly right. The educational aspect was the biggest gap that I saw, number one, because we took it for granted as real estate investors that they would know all of the terms that we use, right? So when we first jumped into the crypto world, we didn't understand their terminology, right? The gap between the crypto people learning about real estate is a lot larger than real estate people, specifically in our group, that knows about crypto. And so we have to, what is that marketer told me one time? He says, you have to put it in a 3rd or 4th grade terminology for the normal person to understand it when you're talking about a new topic. You have to dumb it down literally to 3rd and 4th grade level. And I'm confident we can do that. Confident.
So we shouldn't be talking about IRR and cap rates and cash flow and things that they just probably don't understand. We've got to talk about it in terms they can get. So
correct. So the main thing I think is, what I took from that is okay, if these guys are investing money, right, and one of their coins goes straight to the moon and now they have millions of dollars, then how can we help them with the tax implications, right? Real estate has been that way for how many years now, right? Where you're able to use that as a tax haven simply because that's the way it's always been for whatever reason, right? So how can we help the crypto guys keep their money by investing in real estate and dumbing it down to the 3rd and 4th grade level, right? And at the same time, how can we give them a benefit by talking about, the 4 pillars, how can we show them how it's going to appreciate and you take advantage of depreciation, the cash flow, and then the making the payment, dropping the payment each month with a single payment, things like that. Those are things that those guys don't, it's not their world, right?
It's not their world.
Yeah.
We have such an opportunity, not only to educate, but also to give them the actual products that they can buy.
Yes.
We can provide the entire market,
Yes.
teach them the education that they need,
right.
and then help them acquire coins that are pegged to all the real estate properties that we're doing. Correct. And speaking of that, I know you're working on a pretty cool self-storage project.
Yeah.
But why don't you tell us a little bit about your business? What do you do on the real estate side? I know you own a couple business outside of real estate. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I started out in the fitness industry, on a fitness center, and that fitness center is kind of been the springboard to all of the things that I'm doing now. I struggled through 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, and on into the upcoming years, and I was very fortunate to have an older individual come in the gym that he looked like a farmer, right? And I was talking to him one day, and the more I talked to him, and I was helping him with some workouts, and he was dropping weight and all this other stuff, and I figured out really quick that he wasn't a farmer, even though he dressed like one. Ended up, he was one of the wealthiest men in our town of about 100,000, right? Had no idea. All I was doing was trying to help him lose weight. Well, he was the man that encouraged me to list a house that I had, which is my first house. I was struggling to make the payment on it. He goes, just rent it. And it's been downhill ever since. That led into other forms of investing. In other words, did my first fix and flip, went through the ups and downs of that, finally got the house sold, made a little bit of money, and thought, this is the greatest thing ever, right? So I guess when you balanced out the rental portfolio with the fix and flips and the wholesales that we do, they complement each other so well. And
what market is that again, Matt?
I'm in the Memphis area, West Tennessee. Memphis to Jackson is about a 85 mile area that I cover. It's the Mississippi, Alabama border all the way to Memphis, all the way to Arkansas. So it's kind of about 100 miles, give or take, on that. And Memphis is a crazy market. It's not quite Nashville, but Memphis is a crazy market. What transpired then was I started getting opportunities in other businesses, and there was an opportunity to buy a local restaurant, and I just used what I had learned in real estate. I treated it like it was a house, right? A rental property. How much money is it bringing in? What's the expenses? All this other stuff. And I bought a restaurant, Paul. Who would ever thought this would have happened? But,
Southern cooking, right?
Oh man, don't come to the Sawmill Restaurant in Adamsville, Tennessee if you're on a diet, because it's going to be blown straight out of the water. The water has no calories. That's about it, right? But I learned in the real estate world that you can apply a lot of the financial thinking, I guess you could say, with expenses and income and things like that, and it applies to everything. And next thing you know, I'm partners in a restaurant and a fitness center. So I guess I've got the best of both worlds, the yin and the yang.
Yeah, you gotta eat the good food and then go work it off.
I have a solution for both. When you're hungry,
that's right.
So, absolutely. So it's just turned into opportunities, man. And I think it was an education. It started out in my fitness center with talking with a man who was a been there, done that type guy. And he said, you just have to be ready for opportunity. You have to have your eyes open. Most people are awake, but their eyes aren't open for opportunity. And that's just, I don't know. I'm sure I've missed some along the way, but I've had some pretty good ones basically fall into my lap, and been fortunate to click the right boxes to get something bought. So it's been fantastic, man. It's definitely been a ride for sure.
Well, I know that you're being a little modest with this, because I know that you've got a really good group of partners there, and the stuff that you guys, with Mike and Brent, other guys that are in the Whale Club, and you have such a great network of supportive investors around you. It's amazing. So you've got these different businesses. You got a fitness center, you've got a restaurant, you've got your real estate portfolios. and we met each other really through a mutual mastermind, Collective Genius. I want to say this was maybe like October last year.
Yes.
Because you did a bunch of stuff with in the auto industry, like you got a big hobby, I guess, in buying cars, right? And did you do
Well,
something there as well?
I did. I actually, and this is one of my partners, Brent. I had an opportunity before all this, the car and house craziness, where prices went out the roof. I had an opportunity to buy a car that was about 13 grand, and I just bought it because it was a good buy. And I was talking to Brent one day, and he says, "Man, you should just rent that car on Turo." Of course, I did like most people do when I say that. When I mentioned that business name, I said, "What's Turo?" Right. So I started renting this car on Turo, and realized that it was really no different than any other businesses I have. I started developing systems, and I started using my iPhone to copy and paste the same thing, so I'll make sure I'm consistent with communication and whatnot, and ended up making my mortgage payment by renting a Chevy Cruze. I would have never guessed it, and so I've just tried to keep that going each month. It was just a goal of mine. I wanted to pay for my house with a Chevy Cruze. So
Nice.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
That's been a ride too, for sure.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So, all right. You've got all these different businesses, all these different, like you've had all this experience figuring out how to make it work in all of these different industries. And when I met you, we didn't really talk much about crypto until after you'd heard my presentation earlier this year. And, we got to chatting, and I remember the first conversation we had about the business treasury as I presented on it was, it would be so cool to be able to provide additional ways to support all the different employees that you have. You've got a passion for the church and all these different organizations that you give back to. And so I'd like to hear a little bit about, what did you learn about the business treasury? How do you see it? Well, let's just start there. What is a business treasury, and how are you using it right now?
Well, basically, when I heard your Collective Genius presentation, I thought, wow, you could basically have if you were talking about paying all of your employees with your business treasury, the yield that comes from your business treasury. And I looked at that as like, well, that's basically, you're starting at zero right there, right? That's a big expense for most people who have employees and whatnot. But I took it a step past that, I think, and maybe more than one step, right? I'm a helper by heart. I automatically want to help people, right? So when I heard about this, I wanted to learn more immediately. I went down the rabbit hole, as we talked about in the past, of just, I was reading constantly, staying up late, and my wife was like, well, you're still awake type deal. But I felt like this was an opportunity to put something in front of a person that could not only have a business treasury, I guess you could say, I don't know if this is the right terminology, I may have just coined this, right? But having a personal treasury, right? Because this is really no different for, if you're talking about a church or a civic organization, a nonprofit, a business, an individual person, whatever the case may be. And I just saw this as a way to, I guess you could say, if I make a donation to my church, right? And let's say I give $10,000 to my church, right? My church is automatically going to spend that because my church has expenses too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if I created a business treasury for my church, right? And then that $10,000 started creating a little bit more. And every time I sell a house or make a donation, whatever, I add to that $10,000, right? And now it's at 15, and now it's at 20, right? That money doesn't go away unless the human aspect comes in and messes it up. It just continues to generate. And I looked at this like, there's not anybody that couldn't benefit from that if they have the discipline to learn about it and the discipline to not mess with it, so to say, put it in there and let it do its thing. So I started from that point of view thinking, okay, how can I benefit my business with this, right? And it was just as I described, but also, how could I show this to other people so that they could get a step ahead of the financial burdens that most every American have, So I started taking money each month and from my fitness center and putting in a business treasury. And each time I sell a house, I take a percentage and put it in my own personal treasury. And then with my rental property, Brent and Alex and I have a treasury as well, that we have money set aside for that to start one. And I haven't officially started the one for my restaurant yet, but I have talked to my partner about that, and he's on board. It's just, so many irons in the fire. So I think I saw a stat, and I wrote this down, man. It's this blew my mind when I heard this for the first time. So I looked this up before this call, and it said half of Americans cannot miss a single paycheck.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and half of the people that live here can't miss a single paycheck. You know, as of 2019, and I'm sure the stat has changed too, 44% cannot overcome an unexpected $400 payment. How sad is that, man? And I looked at this as a way that I can help people. That's really my main focus is how can I take this and make it as, you know, like we were talking earlier, third or fourth grade level where people can understand it and say, oh, okay, I get it. Show a little discipline, you know, put a little in each week or each month, wherever you choose, and just let it churn, I guess you could say.
Well, how do you think this, the title of our event over the weekend was called the certainty event. We use this phrase all the time, financial certainty. Another way to say it is we talk about the solvable problem. And when you're describing this scenario where half of Americans can't make their next paycheck and, you know, on and these different stats, they're scary. You know, how does that, you know, relate to financial certainty? And how do you see that being some, you know, a way that you can help these people that mean so much to you achieve financial certainty?
Well, there is no certainty in their life,
right?
Because when you're living paycheck to paycheck, you never know when you're going to get sick and not be able to go to work, right? There is no certainty, right? The thing that I've learned from you and learned from all the people in the Wolf Den and in the Whale Club is this provides a little bit of clarity too. You know, you've used that term a lot, and when we were in the first 10 that jumped into this, man, that was imprinted in my brain is if you have clarity in what you want and how to get there, then it's going to give you a little bit of peace of mind so that there actually is some certainty in your life. And I think that having a business or a personal treasury, whatever the case may be, gets you one step to, again, another term that you use is closer to what you want and where you're trying to go, as opposed to just most Americans just want more. They want the next pair of jeans or the next shirt or the next car or whatever. And, you know, they're not making any progress. So the certainty, in my point of view, I guess you could say my opinion too, is it's not there with most Americans, not there at all.
Yeah, it's not there. It wasn't there for me before I learned this. I realized, oh my God, I am just on this unending loop. So I don't mean this to sound like, oh, we're smart and everybody else doesn't get it. It's like they don't teach this in school.
No.
We didn't get this education.
No.
You know, and I was going down that path of just chasing more and more and more. Why? Because we're naturally wired towards that.
Correct.
We're not hardwired to be like satisfied.
Correct. You know, and that's the thing too, isn't it sad that they don't teach you a single thing in school, or that any school that I know of, about taxes, about all of the things that are going to actually affect you in your real life, you know, and they're definitely not going to teach about cryptocurrency and real estate. I mean, you have to you have to be fortunate enough to come across, you know, the Collective Genius or, you know, the Whale Club or something along the lines of that, to learn about that stuff. You know, most people they don't have a direction in their life, man. And Paul, I think I'm pretty sure I'm a little bit older than you. So it's even better for me because at my age, I've come across this, and man, it has absolutely provided clarity for me. You know, I started making a list of quote unquote solvable problems, you know, that you talk about, that you taught us from day one, right? I started making a list of these things, and I was able to put a number with these solvable problems. And when you can do that, you can work your way back, and that allows you to say, okay, cool. I know the direction I'm going. I know the amount that I need to put here, and I know the length of time it's going to take me to get to that point, right? And
and on top of that, you know how much risk you need to take.
Exactly.
Right? Because you talk about peace of mind, and let me tie this into the conversation we had on our Whale Club call today. Whale call, which was getting people to understand the difference between, you know, the crypto cowboys locking up versus locking in, that's
There
a
you
big difference.
go.
What they were worried about was locking up their money. Well, if
Correct.
I lock it up into a real estate deal, I won't have access to it if I want to behave like a degenerate. That they lovingly refer to themselves as
It's so
degenerates, right?
funny.
So,
So funny.
but
It's
but
so
like
funny.
if we can get them to go from this idea of locking up their money to locking in their financial certainty,
Mhm.
that is so powerful because you help people get closer to the things that they want without chasing more. And you refer to their solvable problem as like, here's all the things that I want. These are all preferences. I want these things. Okay.
Correct.
If we can add a dollar value to that and come up with a number, let's say it's, $1 million, $5 million, whatever, insert however much you need to live the life you want to live. We can now know not only are we getting closer to those things, but how do I take risk off the table? Because as I get closer, I don't want to necessarily take
Right.
any more risk than is absolutely necessary. But if you don't know that how close am I, and am I ahead of track? Am I behind pace? Like you're just going to spin your wheels. So
Right.
yeah, hopefully we can teach all this stuff. I don't know if you're doing this, but obviously you've seen Sonia and Philip, they're taking the cohort. My intention is to have everybody who works for me come through this sort of certainty operating system, because the power is in my mind, the shared language, how
Mhm.
we can say things like, oh, we want to get clarity and we want to get closer over
Mhm.
more, and we have the solvable problem. Like that is those are entire ideas wrapped into
Yes.
single words and phrases that we now understand deeply. There's a level of accountability. There's a level of community. We
Mhm.
can help each other course correct quicker by having this shared language. I don't know about you, but that's some of the most powerful stuff to me with all of this, business treasury, that term included.
Yeah, but because again, it goes back to the education part of this. You have to understand the lingo, so to say, right? And I'll admit from day one when I heard your presentation, right? If I didn't know you and you threw this at me and I didn't know you weren't in the collective genius or have any affiliation with anything that I would have been skeptical too, because there were certain words in there. I thought, I wonder, what does that mean? And I started writing things down, because next thing you know, obviously I'm going to go and search on the internet to figure out what it means and whatnot. We have to do the exact same thing with other people. I have two of my two main employees and two of my businesses. I've put this out there for them, right? I've helped them get started with this stuff. And I'm, through all of the uncertainty that we're currently going through, I say uncertainty, through the downtime, I guess you could say, I've told them just hold tight. That's the terminology that I use, right? But I think it also comes down to a trust. You have to trust the person that you're dealing with, right? And you have to provide education to those people. And I think when you do those two things, you build trust, you build a relationship, and a person takes time to learn the processes, learn the terminology, learn the lingo, and learn the steps to do what we're doing, man. It provides clarity, because they have an aha moment. The next thing you know, wow, I get it, right? And then they get excitement and they want to do more and they want to learn more. And then, you just hope I guess you could say the snowball effect kicks in, where they want to do more and they want to share and help more people. And it's exciting, man. I don't know. I think that you have the same feeling that I do. I'm excited about the future with this, because I think sky's the limit for sure.
Yeah, of course. Very excited. But we use this term, we know what it means, business treasury.
Mm-hmm.
Let's break it down a little bit so that people can understand what that means. Let's talk tactical, like what actually are we doing? So do you mind explaining the concept of, and I can explain it if you like, but like your understanding of liquidity pools, a decentralized exchange. Why is that different from a centralized exchange? Why do we actually have opportunity in the first place to earn passive income with when we say crypto, but really it's dollars, right? We're keeping our money in US dollars.
Correct.
And we're earning passive income. How does that work?
Well, the way I explained it to my main guy that helps me with my housing, his name is Cliff. I explained it to him. It's like you have an opportunity to create a pair and it's almost like your own little rental property, if you think about it, right? The difference is you don't have a tenant, you really don't have maintenance, you don't have property tax, you don't have any of the challenges if you're into rental property, right? If you want to evict the tenant, you literally click a button and it pulls it out. It's literally that simple. So I guess that's the best way that I would know to explain this. It's like your own individual little rental properties that bring in money each month, yet it's in the form of cryptocurrency that is, a lot of them are backed by the US dollar. So I don't know if that answers your question or whatnot,
That
but that's
is
how my brain works with being able to create an opportunity for yield or interest or some sort of income from putting the pair together, and as they say, staking them in a farm, not to get in the weeds, I guess, but
yeah, it's hard to not describe, a little bit of like what's happening. So let's describe for people. So you have a decentralized exchange.
Mhm.
So the decentralized exchange, first of all, is very different than a centralized exchange.
Correct.
On a centralized exchange, so Coinbase, we talk about, Coinbase is most people are familiar with that.
Correct.
So what happens? You go on Coinbase and you can buy coins. You can buy Bitcoin, you can buy ETH, you can buy Dogecoin, you can buy Shiba, you can buy Polkadot, you can buy Cardano, anything really that's traded. We call these like large caps, like the more popular coins you can buy on there. And so, let's see if I can draw this. You have this guy. Here's Matt. Well, that's me. Here's Matt. Very tall, right? And so
tall people problems.
Right? I've got, that should be a B. I've got Bitcoin, and you want to buy Bitcoin. Well, in order for you to buy, I've got to be willing to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So Coinbase sits right here in the middle, and they provide liquidity. So in order to make this trade, somebody's got to put up the money in between to facilitate it. So it actually goes to here, and then it goes to here. And there's, fees. Let's just leave it at that. Mm-hmm. That's how Coinbase makes money. Mm-hmm. I'm selling it, you're buying it. We got to pay a fee. Coinbase brings a ton of money to be able to facilitate these trades constantly. Mm-hmm. That's a centralized exchange, right? But a decentralized exchange,
it's where the magic happens.
I'm selling. I've never made this little chart, so let's see how this goes.
This is fantastic, man.
I'm on the fly.
I like this.
So you have, instead of Coinbase being in the middle, you have the decentralized exchange, which is a liquidity pair. So for example, let's say you referred to pairs. Mm-hmm. So this is what we call a stable coin, BUSD, right? And you have Bitcoin. So let's say I've got Bitcoin and you've got USD. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't trade with you. I trade with the exchange, and the exchange gets this money from you and this Bitcoin from you. So this is probably getting way too far in the weeds, but basically what's happening is we are the exchange. We're earning the fees.
Correct.
So we take our decentralized exchange and we take something like a stable coin, two stable coins, both tied to the US dollar. And that kicks off, let's call it 6 to 12%. And that goes to buying Guard. That's what I buy. But you can buy whatever you want. Point is like you're creating yield from your treasury. This is your business treasury. And it's spitting off consistent returns that we can put on higher risk.
Correct.
And even more higher risk.
Correct.
But actually, like, without getting into the weeds too much, we're actually staking this too.
Correct.
So we earn this for free. So it's like what we call asset accumulation, right? That term, to basically say we create house money.
Correct.
Through stable coins. And then we
Correct.
take that money and we stake it again, and it earns more
Correct.
money. And then that money earns more money. And so we're just accumulating over time.
That's right. So that goes back to what I was saying earlier about if I make a $10,000 donation to my church, right? They just go out and spend that money, right? As opposed to buying, $5,000 in BUSD, $5,000 in USD, whatever coin you want, whatever stable coins, you put these together, stake them in a farm, and it continuously generates more and more and more, and the $10,000 doesn't go away, right? To me, that makes sense. So if you can have something that, if you're patient enough with this and are able to put more money into your business treasury, it can just continue to grow. And like you were showing in your amazing drawing, by the way, I didn't know you were going to do that. That's pretty impressive, right? Is you have unlimited options. You can go the direction you want to go. You can take more risk if you want, because you still have your $10,000 that's sitting there and nothing has disappeared, so to say, by an expense. It's beautiful, man. The
beauty of it is everybody thinks of crypto like gambling. Like we did a casino night as sort of like a joke about gambling with crypto.
See what you did there, Paul.
Amazing, but it was fun. But the point is like everybody thinks that it's gambling, but we're not gambling.
No,
we're collecting all these assets for free. We know some of them are going to do 100x. Some of them are going to go to zero.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
We don't want to subject our principal. People talk about, I'm dollar cost averaging into something. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's not necessarily a bad strategy, but you could completely lower your risk to almost, I don't want to say zero, but because we're not, it's about domesticating risk, reducing it as much as possible. There's always risk. But if we can reduce that risk as much as possible, we keep all our principal in a stable coin that's backed by the US dollar, not an algorithmically backed stable coin like UST that crashed, right? People are also, they don't, most people they hear the headlines and they make their decisions based on what the headlines tell them, right? Yeah. There are bad coins out there. We know this, right? So we've learned how to identify the best ones. We, as a community, help each other, learn how to remove as much risk as possible so that we can create house money. Then we can stake that and earn more and earn more and earn more. And if you're looking for a get rich quick scheme, this is not the place. Yeah. Right. We teach wealth generation, right? We're not teaching how to pick the next best coin or how to do technical analysis. We don't care about any of that because because that's way too much effort. We don't have time for that. We just want to create coins that we get for free. And, it's like, I just say this all the time. Like, this is my strategy to get Bitcoin and Guard for free. This is how I do it.
It's beautiful, man. Because if you think about it, one of the things I learned from you and from Dan Nicholson, Nick Peterson, all that is what I have on this sticky note right here in front of me, right? I have this just basically everywhere where I go is the least amount of risk, the least amount of effort, and the most amount of options, or the most amount of upside, wherever you want to. And when you change your thinking to that, to me, in my opinion, this makes more sense because you have your $10,000, so to say, it's there, right? So the yield that it spits off, if you want to throw it at something that's risky, you can, because you still have your $10,000, so to say. Mm-hmm. So to me, it makes all the sense in the world, especially when you back it to the US dollar, because most people think, well, what happens if it goes to zero and blah, 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 and all this stuff. I get a lot of these questions, and there's so many options with it. There's so many options that you can on the decentralized exchange that allows you to create wealth, just like you're talking about, and throw something at a moonshot or a risk or something else or whatever you want to do, because as long as you're disciplined enough to not take that $10,000 that I keep using as a reference, as long as that stays there, you're good to go, man. That's because we know some of them are going to go to zero. Like people ask me that, and I'm like, yeah, of course. Crypto's volatile. It's dangerous, which is why if you don't have a really good operating system, you don't know how to think about this, you are likely to blow yourself up. That's it. FOMO will crush you in this game. Yeah. It's not something people need to play around with, for sure.
Well, Dan
But
says this too, and he says like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What Dan talks about is like everybody wants more upside. They're like, yeah, but I could make more money if I did it this way.
mm-hmm.
But what we've learned, and he talked about this at the event, is actually if you can invert that thinking and you can say, how do I take away the downside so that
Beautiful.
like, I don't care how much upside it is, because the more upside you chase, the more downside it also inherently comes with a lot of times. So if we can just remove the downside, what does he say that we're left with?
Upside.
You only left with upside.
It's such a simple concept, right? You know, we all look at Dan as like, what do you call him? The human computer, whatever. I think
the wealth wizard. He's a human computer. He's,
yeah. Well, you could use, you know, Nick could be in that same. He could be in that same category, right? But the things that they're talking about are simple concepts, and it goes back to this right here. You know, least amount of risk, the least amount of effort, the most amount of options. That is very simple, but yet it's so profound because most people don't think about that. Most people concentrate on what if this happens or what if that happens, right? And they're not taking away the downside. Just like you said, it's so simple. That was one of the, when he asked Alan that, hey, Alan, if I take away the downside, what's left? And Alan started laughing right when he was asking that question, right? Upside, of course. And we're like, it's so simple. It's so simple. But you have to get to that point where your thought process is takes a step in that direction. And I would say that being part of the Whale Club has absolutely opened my eyes to a better way to do things, not just with real estate, not just with crypto, but in business and, you know, for that matter, life as a whole, because it's all about making simpler and avoiding as much risk as possible. So the Whale Club is instrumental in teaching that.
I'm really glad to hear that, man, because it's the best, you know, the best part about this is we have the guys who are teaching this to us as business. They're like, they're part of the business now. Like they're on our team. We're learning direct from the source. We can implement it. It's so powerful to have Nick and Dan teaching us how to navigate these waters, giving us these tools. And, you know, Dr. Jeff, you talk about the impulses that we feel. I mean, the human mindset versus the champion's mind, you know, we're hardwired a certain way, hardwired towards more, hardwired towards survival. And go ahead.
The card that he gave, man, was, you know, I keep that in my wallet now. And I actually asked him for an extra one because I wanted to see if I could get some copies of that made. Right. The thing that I like about him is you've heard what he said. I have personally in a different way, but not as good as the way he explained it, right? You can tell he's done that for a long time and he's very good at it based on the way that a normal person thinks, right? Mm-hmm. The human mindset versus the champion's mindset. It's a 180, so to say. And it was great to hear him speak at your event, man. That was fantastic. And I hope he comes back to the next one, because just having a chance to talk with him afterwards, you get an air of confidence coming from him that he's been there, done that type guy.
He has.
He wants to help you get to where he is. And that's just relieving. How awesome is it, Paul? I'm getting off on a tangent here, man. You just cut me off at any time. How awesome is it that in the Whale Club, if any of us have a challenge, a real estate challenge, crypto challenge, a business challenge for that matter, there's somebody in our group that can answer that question. How awesome is that, man?
There's a lot of people too. It's, you know, that's why this group's so different than just a real estate group or just a crypto group, because we got guys that own fitness centers like yourself, like Jake. You know, he owns an entire like nutrition type. I don't even know the specifics of it. There was another guy, Brad, who was there, who's got a massive plumbing business. You got all these crypto folks. So it's just this diverse group of people who are looking at investing and financial certainty as the goal, and the tools that we're using to do that are our businesses, our crypto. So we have such a unique group of people that are looking at, hey, I'm open to all of the options because we favor optionality, right? To get
Correct.
me closer to the things that I want. And real estate's a great tool to do that. Crypto happens to be a great tool to do that. Owning businesses happens to be a really great tool to do that.
Right.
Infinite banking policies we've talked about. That's what's so unique about this group. I've not seen that in any other group,
No.
this holistic view of financial certainty. And we're going to use whatever tools and means necessary to get there with the least amount of risk, least amount of effort, most amount of options.
That's absolutely right. And that's what makes it exciting, is because you have multiple points of view, but also multiple different experiences that people have had in business and in life and moving forward. And I think that gives the group overall a confidence in itself, because whatever we're trying to do with the crypto world and the real estate world, and to bridge the gap of that, after this past weekend in the event, I'm confident that I don't think that there's much we're not going to be able to overcome, because you have a group of people that are determined to take one step and then take another step and then take another step and then help the group as a whole. You know what I mean? You just have, it's just I guess you could say it's the power of the mastermind. You know, you get a lot of different brains together in the same room, and you discuss challenges. It makes it easier to figure those challenges out, right? And overall, everybody's going to benefit from that once we take the next step, and then we take the next step. And then when we finally do get the crypto crew to jump in, it's going to be a wonderful thing, man. Absolutely wonderful. It's exciting.
Sure is, man. Well, I thought this was a great conversation. You've been with me since the beginning, first 10. So
yeah,
it's so fun to do this with great people and strong business owners and investors like you. So I don't know, man. Thank you for joining me today, and let's go do something incredible.
I can't wait, man. That's why I'm sporting it today. The Well Club.
Awesome.
I'm ready. Oh,
man.
It's been fantastic, man. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk, man. This has been great. I always enjoy talking with you, and anybody in the Well Club for that matter, because you got a good group of people. I've said it once and I'll say it again. It's a good group of people that are coming together and they're going to make some moves.
For sure.
And I'm just holding on to the coattail, Paul. That's all I want to do. Just
I don't know about that, man. But so if you guys are interested in any of the stuff we're talking about here, you can go check us out, blockchainwhales.com. We're going to be adding new videos, things, interviews, things like this with folks that are doing it on the ground, right? That are involved. So you can check out our YouTube channel. Our next cohort is going to be starting probably like middle of October. So we didn't think we were going to do another one until December, but we've gotten so much interest that we're filling it up. So got a few spots left on that. If you guys are interested in getting into that cohort, go check out blockchainwhales.com and you can apply, or you can get on our, I'm interested list, and we'll keep you updated for future opportunities to join. So anyways, thank you, Matt. I appreciate you coming on today, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
You have a great day, man.
See ya.